So let me ask y'all, fellas, first, when did y'all learn the tells? When did you learn the tells, or what was working, what wasn't working, or was it mainly from the conversation that you figured it out?
For
I
me,
mean,
conversation.
as you get older, you see the tells, like, especially you with that person for a long time. Body cues, who initiates the sex, what they like, what you like, stuff like that. You can also tell when it's going down as well. Like, all right, we're not having sex as frequently. It's not lasting as long. I'm not into it. She's not into it. Like, it's a fucking Tuesday and I'm tired. Like, shit like that. I mean, you go through the motions. You if you're really connected with that person, the tells are always there, and that's your time to be like, hey, what's going on? Are we good? Like, as I got older, like when I was young, it was all right. I'm just gonna go all the way I can, the way I know how. The conversations happen later in life as I progress through my 20s, into my 30s, and later on. There's always tells. If you're really connected with that person, for me, there's always going to be a tell. Whether you need to have a hard stop and have a conversation, or all right, this is really going good. We know we know what we're doing, so there's no need to have that conversation.
So I asked because even though I don't know when they got married, but obviously they were together for that time frame, from 17 years old to 27 years old. Did you know those tells?
So I was gonna say something earlier. I also questioned the found. I mean, I haven't really kept up with their story. I know little snippets about it, but I also question the foundation that this relationship has been built on then. Because if 10 years have gone by and in 10 years you have not felt comfortable enough to tell your partner, hey,
Yes, I
I'm
agree.
not satisfied,
Yeah.
that there's something that's lacking in this relationship. Not just the faking it part, but the fact that you're just not even willing to come to your partner. So I'm also going to place that accountability on her, because what did you feel? Why were you so hesitant to
Well,
tell?
she wasn't feeling nothing. But
Well, no, I wasn't feeling anything. Like, why were you so hesitant to not speak to him and tell him, hey, like, this is what's happening. I'm not feeling it.
so
But
do we use the
someone
love?
made that point earlier that sex was a male dominated thing back in those days. So if that was the case, then that's the answer. She felt compelled to have sex and continue to fake it because of society. Society dictated that. Then at that point, it wasn't really about her not taking accountability, her not being comfortable, their relationship not being solid. It was more, hey, society dictates you do this, so you do that. And I'm just saying that because someone said that at the beginning of this Zoom.
No,
I don't subscribe to it.
like,
I'm just repeating it.
we're like following that assumption, obviously. And I've felt the same way growing up as well. But I say, as we get older and with experience and time, we start looking at relationships differently and what we want them to look like. And I think a big part of that is communication. I think we mentioned that earlier. So I'm also like questioning that. You've been married, you've been with this person for a really long time. At some point, there's got to be some form of communication.
And that's why I think that 10-year period is just for book sales. That's exactly why I said that. I think it's for book sales. At some point, she had to have a conversation with someone as a collective to say, hey, you should experience this. You should be experiencing that. This is how I feel when my man and I do this. Envy's out on his own, doing his own thing. He's with another girl. To Jarrell's point, he could tell when they're initiating stuff. When he go home, his wife isn't. Something's wrong. Or back to the original point that I made, maybe he didn't care. And if he didn't care, he's oblivious to all those signs. It's just about putting in work, doing what I got to do, and then getting out in the street, right? Take care of home and then do what I got to do outside. So that's the way I see this.
Just to jump in real quick, we can blame it on society and all that stuff, depending on your culture or who you grew up with and your family background. But I would definitely say the accountability falls on her as far as keeping it real and having the honest conversation with your partner. I will say, if I had to put it on something, kind of like what we said a little earlier, the age makes a big difference. But with age comes self-esteem. Just in my opinion, the older you get, more accomplishments under your belt, that's the stuff that really builds your character and who you are. As far as maybe not having high enough self-esteem to be honest enough with your partner, I would say that could definitely be taken into consideration because, you know, just from like, I'm like in women's groups and stuff, and I do speak to a lot of women that have a lot of different perspectives, especially on sex. And, you know, there's like 20 different types of orgasms that women can have. So I would say a lot of women don't even understand the levels of climax that they can even get to, nonetheless, then expect their partner to understand that level of climax to get to. It's a little unfair. And until a female or a woman gets to understand her body and understand what she can actually accomplish, then you know, I could get where this would be taken out in anger on envy. And then if he's cheating on Erica Mena with Erica Mena and whoever else he's cheated with, because that's the name that we all know, he had no clue what was going on. That's my point.
Exactly. Right.
And that's a good point, Krista, because the reality is as you evolve, you get to know your body, and that's when you're able to tell people what you like, what you don't like. So, you know, again, I don't think that timeline is accurate in terms of the 10 years. I just have a hard time swallowing it, only because in a relationship, as you evolve, you do communicate with your partner. Right.
Well, just to kind of step in real
Well,
quick.
can I
if
chime
the show-
in real quick?
wait, hold on. If it was the Envy show, then she was just on the Envy show and running on his train, not developing who she was. So I definitely feel this could have gone on for 10 years, especially in your 20s. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I know in my perspective, the reason why I asked everybody, when was the first time you had sex
Maturity,
versus when
guys,
was
come
the
on.
first time you had an orgasm? Like the reason why I asked
And
that
I'm gonna come
question
back to
was
that too.
because
Sorry,
for me,
sorry. Go ahead, Steph.
so that okay, so like the reason why I asked that question was for me, it was 5 years. And that goes to both y'all point. That's not a chuckling manner really, because it goes to knowing your body. I was a teenager until I was an adult. The way that conversation came up for me is I was with the first man I was with for a very long time. And like Krista said, there's different orgasms. To go to Jarrell's point, I don't need an orgasm to feel fulfilled. However, like in sex, that's kind of that, you know, thing that we were talking about, that, you know, women, I think they derive like connection, they derive physical touch, and certain things happen to them with that, where it's not all about, you know, having an orgasm every single time. Now, I'm not saying anything about my personal life. What I'm saying is that's the truth. What would keep a woman engaging? Now, when I knew what a clitoral orgasm felt like, which is what most women will associate as an orgasm, if, you know, we're talking about it. When I knew about it, I found out, like a lot of women, on my own. And once that happened, I was like, you know, we were in bed and I was like, okay, put your head, stop moving, do it right here, now. And he got pissed at me and got up and walked away. But then that conversation came after, and I was like, I just discovered this new thing. It wasn't like he felt emasculated in that moment, where I'm like, what? Listen, I want my body to do this thing that you've never done to me before. Like, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, you know? So that's what I think the timeline could be. And, you know, yeah, of course she could be silent. She could have been riding Envy's train. I don't think this is an example of the blame game. I don't think anybody's there to blame. I honestly do think, yeah, maybe they stretched the timeline a little bit. But I do think this was a vulnerable state for them to come out and for conversations like this to happen, because these conversations are important for empowerment of women to use their voices during sex. Because whether you were raised by a mother, listen, I was raised by people who taught me this, and that. But when you're in the positions, and, you know, yeah, there are societal things and there are cultural things and religious things and just lifestyle things. And we are in such a progressive age that we're able to speak so liberally on it and get different points of views. But when I lost my virginity, it wasn't like that at all, you know. But once I found out what my body can do, I was being the conductor of the orchestra.
The maestro.
No doubt, no doubt.
Like,
All right,
let's go.
I can
That's
go
why
on.
I asked that question.
Steph brought up a, you know, a good conversation piece as well. do you guys remember your first time?
Like first orgasm or first time we
Well, let's
lost?
start at the very first time first. Maybe it might have been the same time, but do you remember your very first? Well, Steph's getting all tingly thinking about it. All right, shout out to homie. Was that an eventful first time, or was it what was the line in the Matrix? Nobody hits the jump on their first time. Like was it just that's what sex is? Interesting. Do you guys remember that moment? Like was it men, guys and girls? Anybody want to jump in?
I'm
I don't
thinking.
want to talk about my first time.
Okay, got that answered, but that was bad. All right.
Mine was awkward.
I would definitely say
Awkward.
Okay, so fellas, awkward, bad. Ladies, silence.
Special.
Nothing special.
Special.
Oh, it was special.
No, very special. It was
Okay,
the first
okay. So
time,
we'll come back to you, Tiff.
I mean, the only thing that I remember really is that Usher Nice and Slow was playing.
Okay, you got the soundtrack. All right, no doubt, no
Oh,
doubt.
I love
7 o'clock.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Krista.
Baby, tell me what you want to do with me.
They call me
Yeah, once I
US.
figured out- Once I discovered some of the different things that could happen, I would say I was pretty like wowed by each, if I had to say it that way.
Okay. Karina.
I had to be in my early 20s, mid 20s actually, for my first like memorable orgasm.
Well, just the first time though. How about the
Oh,
first
first
time?
time was terrible.
Oh,
I didn't orgasm and it was painful as fuck.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so it took you. You said it took what, 5 years? You said? No, Steph said 5 years, right?
Mm.
Before from the first time to your first.
For my see, and I don't feel like that was a reflection of the partner. I feel like that was a reflection of me, because I will say this here publicly. I was completely satisfied 5 years leading up to that. So that is why I feel like a woman can't be completely dissatisfied. I was enjoying it and my body was reacting to it. It just wasn't reacting in that way. But once you feel that in that way, you just don't.
So let's expound on that.
The bar.
What was it? The emotions? Was it the feeling, the love, the
No.
Like,
When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the clitoral orgasm.
okay, but I'm saying, but the prior, you said you were satisfied before the orgasm. What?
Yeah,
was,
because you can have. Yeah, I mean, it feels good. You get. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak it the way it is because we're talking about this, but when certain things happen, you don't have to have an obnoxious orgasm where you feel like the organ of your stomach is coming out of your body in order to be satisfied, in order for something to feel like amazing and delicious and, sensual, and to feel connections and to have a vaginal orgasm is another thing. You know what I mean? So, there's like Krista was saying, there's different types and there's different degrees, and there's different ones that will come every time you will have sex if the person is willing to go those lengths, and there are ones that come
Those
once
lengths
in a
matter,
real good
right?
blue moon.
Got it.
Yes,
Krista, you
fellas,
said you
when
was
you
20.
start making your girl sound like animal noises and she's looking like she's going through the exorcism, that's a different type that, she might enjoy too. It just depends on the mood and the day.
So you said you was 20. What's the?
That's so
What's the
unfair.
Wait. Let me jump in real quick too.
I don't know about the 20. I want to know what the range is.
I'm gonna tell all of y'all some game.
Okay,
I've
go
got a
ahead.
couple of females living
Hold on,
in.
let me give a notepad.
Right, take note. We're
Right.
recording this, so
Yeah,
let's
you
go.
recording it.
It is.
That's why I had it here. That's why she here. Let's go, Lady K.
Let me tell you, I know a couple of women that were like, oh no, I've never orgasmed. I was like, really? Like, you're over 30. Like, how does this not happen with your husband? You got kids. I mean, Birkin bags, Chanel, all of this. It is lifestyle, while somebody might lie to their man for so long, because it gets to a point where, people they don't like each other. In a relationship happens, and that communication can get very bumpy, especially when we're young, like we mentioned. But depending on that lifestyle that man is bringing to the table, which in Envy's case, he was the breadwinner. So I don't care what anyone's saying. She was playing her role. And that's what happened in that case. So she
And it would be
was
safe to
fine.
say
She
Erica was as well.
benefiting. She did not care enough because she was benefiting in all those other ways. She got publicly embarrassed by her man cheating, which I'm sure she knew about plenty of women that were in the picture, but she was playing the role.
Hmm.
Now, Joaquin, from that perspective, does that sound a little more likely?
In terms of the 10-year,
In terms of her just playing a role and just accepting what it is because of the benefits that she's reaping from it?
absolutely. I think everybody plays a role at some point. Men play roles too, right? Women, there's situations where everyone knows a local dude that lives in the neighborhood that ain't up to nothing, but he, benefits off of a female that goes to work and works hard every day. That dude playing a role too. So that works both ways. And that's what I mean about the orgasm part. Men fake it just as well, right? Women hold it in. Men at some point will mention it, or they'll direct, right? They'll direct the woman to what they like. Whereas, I can't speak for a woman, but based on what I'm hearing, they will just go along for a period of time until they erupt.
Good choice of words, there, bro.